Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're back with another tier list, and in today's tier list, I'm going to be ranking Barcelona's possible managerial replacements for Xavi. You know guys, silly me, I actually thought that this whole Xavi in and out saga was over because they told us it was over about a month back. They said that Xavi's going to stay for one more year no matter what. But obviously with Barcelona, it's a clown show currently and you cannot trust anything that comes out of there. And it looks like Xavi might actually get the boot at the end of the season because our president is a little bitch who got his feelings hurt by some factual comments by the manager, and now he wants to embarrass a club legend and kick him out the back door because he's a clown. That's simply what he is. But yeah, man, that's enough of that. We obviously already know what's going on with Barca. It came out today that apparently some Barca representatives are flying to London to meet with Hansi Flick's representatives, and then it came out that report's not true. I don't know. Like, Barca's a mess right now, like I said. But anyway, it looks like Barca are actively looking for a new coach, and that Xavi, it's looking likely that he's going to get the boot. So with that being said, I want to talk about the 6 managerial candidates that I've seen be linked to Barca the most. I'm sorry about that. Over the past couple months or over the past couple days, and just talk about them and tell you guys whether I'm intrigued by them, whether I want them at Barca as the coach, or whether I don't want them anywhere near the club. Obviously, the 6 names you guys see here are Roberto De Zerbi, we have Marcelo Gallardo, we have Hansi Flick, we have Rafa Marquez, we have Thiago Motta, and we have Tuchel. I didn't bother adding guys like Alguacil, Michel, Nagelsmann, Pep, Jurgen Klopp because those guys are obviously not going to come. Definitely not this year at least, or like if Xavi does get sacked. I think if Barca have a new coach, it's going to be one of these 6 guys. So that's why I added these guys in there. And yeah, we're just going to talk about them, give you guys my opinion, and yeah, just have a good time, I guess. Like, I don't really know what to say. I just kind of ran out of words there. But anyway, if you guys agree or disagree, like always, please let me know in the comment section down below. And enough yapping, let's get into the tier list now. The first manager we have here is Brighton's very own Roberto De Zerbi, who to me is going to go into no. First of all, I want to preface my comments by saying this. I have a lot of respect for Roberto De Zerbi as a coach. I think he's one of the best tacticians in all of Europe. I really do believe that. And I think what he's done with Brighton over the past couple of years is honestly remarkable. Now, granted, this year Brighton had a down year, finished 11th in the Prem. People had him finishing top of the table, maybe getting Europe, and they finished 11th. So they underachieved this year, I get that. But I'll tell you this, if you watch Brighton this year, you know they had one of the worst injury crises, not just in the Prem, but in all of Europe. It was like they basically lost all their best players due to injury. And not to mention, he lost his 2 best players in the summer, Moises Caicedo and also Alexis McAllister. One went to Liverpool, obviously McAllister, and Caicedo went to Chelsea. So losing your 2 best players in the summer, an injury-riddled team, and also like we know Brighton don't have the best team on paper, like they don't have one of the deepest squads or best squads in the Prem. And with that being said, you still finished 11th, like clear of relegation in the toughest league in the world. Because what De Zerbi has proven to you is that it's not about the players that he has, it's about the system that he implements. And it's about his tactics and his philosophy. If you can get those players to buy in, he's going to make it work. But also with that comes a lot of ego and stubbornness, which is what I don't like about De Zerbi. That's my number one thing. I don't like the fact that I feel like he's too stubborn as a coach. And that puts me off because Xavi a lot of times can be like that. And I watched Brighton like towards the end of the season and I see teams pressing them high up the pitch and they have no backup plan. They have no plan B. Because De Zerbi feels like his way of playing is the best way of playing. He doesn't want to adapt to anything. And I don't want that as the next Barca coach. I want a guy who's fluid and able to adapt and can see the game and say, okay, this isn't working, let's do something else. And I don't feel like De Zerbi has that in him, which I don't like. I don't like that at all because, like I said, it brings me flashbacks to Xavi. A lot of times I see Barca playing a certain way and it's not working, and Xavi wants to keep playing that certain way because he believes it's the best way to play it. And again, I don't want that. I want a guy who's more, who can just adapt a little bit more, flow like water. And I don't feel like De Zerbi has that in him. And also, the biggest thing with me about De Zerbi is the lack of experience. And that's going to be a theme in this video when I'm talking about these coaches. He has never coached a big team in his life. Coaching at Brighton and coaching at Barcelona, it's not remotely similar. You can lose 3 or 4 games on the bounce at Brighton and no one's going to care. In Barcelona, you win 2 games in a row, but you don't play good football, and fans like me are on your ass. Pause. But that's just the way it is, bro. You guys know, like when Barca win, but we don't play well, I'm pissed, bro. And that's just not something that I bet he's used to. And we saw the guy, like the guy before him, Graham Potter at Brighton, he was one of the most promising managers in Europe. He goes to Chelsea, a big club, and he collapses, man, because it's not the same. And if you think Chelsea's bad, wait till you get to Barcelona. I'm not trying to say that De Zerbi and Potter are the same person because obviously they're not. But it's like we've seen it before. You do good at Brighton, you do well at a small club, and then you go to a big club, and then it's just like, I can't handle this, man. I don't think De Zerbi's going to be, again, I'm not saying De Zerbi's not going to be able to handle it because we don't know, but again, the fact that we don't know puts me off because Barca cannot swing and miss with this managerial appointment. I've said it 1,000 times. You have to get it right. And I think De Zerbi's too big of a risk. And I also don't think De Zerbi's going to end up going to Barca. I think he'll end up going to Chelsea or United, or maybe go to the Serie A. So I don't think it's going to happen anyway. I think it's a long shot if he does come to Barca. But anyway, if he, like, I just wouldn't be, I wouldn't feel comfortable with De Zerbi because, like I said, I think as a tactician he's great, but also his stubbornness, it just puts me off. And the fact that he's coached at Brighton and never coached at a big team like Barcelona. Now, after he wants to coach at Chelsea, United, or Juve, and after that he wants to take that next step and go to Barcelona, I'd be more than happy because you've coached at a big team before. But to take a guy who's at Brighton and bring him to Barca and just kind of put your faith in that, it's a no for me. So for that reason, for everything I just outlined, it's going to go into no. But again, I wouldn't be opposed for him to come in maybe a couple years from now. Next up, we have Marcelo Gallardo, former coach at River Plate, most notably actually coached River Plate, and is now the current coach at Al Ittihad in the Saudi League. Gallardo has not been rumored to Barca that much ever since Xavi said he was stepping down back in January. He wasn't one of the names that was floated out there, but over the past couple weeks, his name has picked up a lot of steam. And also, if you guys remember back in late 2019, early 2020, when Valverde was on his way out, Gallardo was a guy who was heavily linked to Barca. I actually thought at one point he was going to be the next Barca coach. But obviously it didn't end up happening. Holy fuck. It did not end up happening. Sorry about that. And he ended up taking the job in the Saudi League, which I get it. Like, it puts people off, and it puts me off as well because he was one of the most promising young coaches in the world, leaving River. And then for him to go to the Saudi League was just like, it was weird to me. And he rejected a bunch of big teams too. So I don't know why he did that. Maybe, I'm guessing it was for the money, obviously. But still, with all that being said, he to me is going to go and intrigued. I feel like Marcelo Gallardo is heavily disrespected by people who didn't watch him at River. I'm not trying to sound condescending when I say this, I promise, but take it from me, a guy who watches South American football, and I watch the Argentinian league a lot. Marcelo Gallardo is a legend, bro, in Conmebol. He is a legend. What this guy did with River is nothing short of remarkable. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that. If you know, you know. River, he got to River a year after they had just gotten relegated. River got relegated. River Plate, that's like Barcelona getting relegated to the second division of Spanish football. And Gallardo comes in a year after they came up from relegation. He didn't bring them up, but he didn't bring them up. But obviously they came up after they came up, and a year after he came in. And River were in financial ruins, and the vibes around the club were terrible. It was an awful, toxic situation. And Gallardo comes in, and in his first season in charge, he wins the equivalent of the Europa League in South America, which is the Copa Sudamericana. And then the next year, he wins the Copa Libertadores, which is the UCL version of Conmebol. And he won two Libertadores, by the way. He won two of them. And one of them, he beat Boca Juniors in that final. Their biggest rivals. The biggest rivalry, arguably, in the world is Boca River. And he beat Boca Juniors in a UCL final. That's like Barca beating Real Madrid in the UCL final. That's how big of a moment that was. And the next year, they made it to another Libertadores final. And they were 2 minutes away from winning back-to-back. And then Gavi goal happened that game in Lima, where he scored, obviously, a brace. And it just went to shit for them. But they were that close to winning back-to-back. And not only that, he won 3 Recopas. He won the league in Argentina a bunch of times. This guy was he's a stud, bro. Honestly, and what I like about Gallardo the most, and what really makes me comfortable, why I'm putting him in intrigue, is because of this. He's a guy who trusts his young players. Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez, Montiel, Ezequiel Palacios, they were all brought up to River's first team by Marcelo Gallardo. He did that. And with Barca, we need a guy who can put trust in the young players like Xavi has. Xavi's put trust, obviously, in Cubarsí, and Fermín López, and Lamine Yamal. And Gallardo did the same thing at River. And we know Julian Alvarez, what he is now. We know what Enzo Fernandez is now. I know Enzo had a down season at Chelsea, but still, this is a guy who won Young Player of the Tournament at a World Cup and was one of the most promising young midfielders in the world. Montiel is a good player. Ezequiel Palacios is a good player as well. And he did that, bro. He did that. So I like that. That makes me very comfortable because I know that this guy, he can look at the guys in La Masia and trust and bring them up and he can instill that confidence in them like Xavi has with the guys that are obviously already in the first team. Like I mentioned, Fermín, Pau, and Lamine Yamal. And people talk about, oh, he doesn't have experience coaching a big team. Like you talk about De Zerbi at Brighton, but he coached at River Plate. River Plate and Brighton are not the same thing, bro. The pressure at River is huge. It's huge, bro. It's one of the biggest clubs, forget in South America, in the world, but River Plate is a massive institution. The pressure at River is very, very real. It's like Barca almost. It's not really Barca, but it's close to it, honestly. River Plate is a huge club. Those fans care about that team, and they have a standard. So for me, I don't look at Gallardo as a guy who's never coached a big team before because I consider River Plate a big team because I don't have this bias of only European teams or big teams. I look at the whole. I look at football like in every continent. And when it comes to international football, River and Boca and those teams in Brazil, Santos and Botafogo and all those teams, to me, they're in that conversation for biggest teams in the world. So for me, I would not be opposed to bringing Marcelo Gallardo. Again, is he my first choice? No, but he's a guy who I would not be opposed to bringing in. because, like I said, he has trust in his young players. He has an innovative and good brand of football, which I like to watch. It's a very pleasing style of football to watch. And also, he's a guy who was up and coming, and every big team in Europe wanted this guy, believe it or not. Every big team in Europe wanted Marcelo Gallardo at one point, but like I said, he rejected them. I understand that coaching in the Saudi League right now is kind of putting some people off, and I can see why. But still, the whole thing that he hasn't coached a big team before, he hasn't coached in Europe, I get that. But after UEFA, it's Comebol. It's the next biggest federation when it comes to football. It's the next best continent. So I don't see why he couldn't do it in Europe. So for me, again, I'm not gonna say he's my first choice, like I said, but I would be intrigued and I would want to see, like, if he comes in, I'd be open to it, honestly. Next up, we have Rafa Marquez, who to me is gonna go into no. This is the guy that I at least want to coach Barca. I don't want Rafa Marquez anywhere near the Barca first team job, because to me, if we bring in Rafa Marquez, it's trying to replicate what happened with Pep, and that just makes me so upset, bro. Because with Pep, you're never gonna get that again. And the sooner Joan Laporta recognizes that, the better. And I have nothing against Rafa Marquez as a person or as a coach. I think he's obviously a Barca legend, in my opinion, a guy who was a captain for Barca. I think he's a I think he's a great figure for Barcelona. That's what I'm gonna say. But as a coach for the first team right now, I don't want it, because again, it's too big of a risk. And at least De Zerbi has coached like the first division football. Rafa Marquez has never coached first division football. He's never done it. And yes, Barca are playing well right now, and they play a good brand of football, but I just don't see the infatuation with bringing in Rafa Marquez. To me, he would be another yes man for Joan Laporta and the Barca board, and I don't want another yes man, man. I want a guy who has balls, who has personality, who has the ability to say, no, I don't want that, do this. When it comes to Rafa Marquez, man, it's too big of a risk, in my opinion. It's not really a risk that, like, if we're going to risk it on somebody, at least risk it on somebody that's managed in the first division, like De Zerbi or Motta or Tuchel or Hansi Flick or Gallardo. Like risk it on that. Don't risk it on Rafa Marquez, who, like I said, has no experience, bro. He just simply has no experience to me. It would just really put me off. And if Barca go with this, it's like we're going with the safe option. Let's go with the safe option, the guy who's already at Barca, and then maybe we can replicate Pep. Which, again, is never going to happen. What happened with Pep is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. You bring a guy up from Barca B and he becomes the greatest manager of all time, and he wins you a treble in his first season. And also Pep had the greatest player of all time. Like, yeah, Pep did a great job, but he also had fucking Messi when he came up. And he had Xavi, and he had Iniesta. He had the greatest midfield of all time. He had Puyol and Piqué, who obviously came from United. He had Dani Alves, who he signed. I mean, Pep had a really, really good team. Obviously, you guys know how much I love Pep, but still, we don't have that right now. We have a good team, but we don't have 09 Barca, because no team ever has had that, because it's the greatest team of all time. It's the greatest collection of talent in the history of football. And the trophy cabinet is there to show for it. They want a sextuple. But to me, again, back to Rafa Marquez, it's too safe. And if we're going to go risky, at least go for somebody else. Okay? Like, I don't know. It's too safe and too risky at the same time. Does that make sense? Rafa Marquez is too safe of an option, but also too risky of an option. And I don't want that. Because I don't have trust in this guy. I don't know what it is, but I think most Barca fans agree with me. He's just a guy who, if he comes in, I just don't think the fan base is going to be inspired by him. I think it's going to be... it's just not going to be great. So for me, Rafa Marquez, again, nothing against him as a Barca figure or as a person, because, again, I don't know him. But for him to be the next Barca coach, for me, is going to be a no. Next up, we have Hansi Flick. If you guys consume any of my content, it should not come as a surprise to you what I'm about to do, which is put him in yes. I understand the skepticism when it comes to Hansi Flick. Has only coached one full season at the club level and was a failure at the German national team. The German national team, first of all, I don't give a fuck about. International football and club football, they might as well be different sports. They're totally different. I'm not going to criticize, I get Hansi Flick didn't do a good job, but the German national team, it's not exactly like Germany have a golden generation. We're not talking about Germany in the 90s or the 2000s. And if you look at Joachim Löw, post the 2014 World Cup, Germany have not, they didn't do that well under him. And then post Hansi Flick with Julian Nagelsmann, we'll see what they do in the Euros this year, but after Hansi Flick left, they also didn't do that well either. So it's not like Germany were thriving and then Hansi Flick came in and then turned them to shit. Germany were hardly thriving under any other manager before Flick or after Flick. So again, for me, and like I said, international football is totally different. So I'm not going to take that into account. People can criticize him for Germany. I'm not going to do that. I think that's a lazy argument. When it comes to Bayern Munich, here's what I know. The guy came in for Kovac mid-season and won in the sextuple. It's Pep Guardiola and it's Hansi Flick. And one of those guys is the greatest coach of all time. And obviously I'm talking about Pep, not Hansi Flick. And he's coached at a big team. He knows like Bayern Munich is one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and the pressure at Bayern is similar to the pressure at Barca. The pressure at Barca. You gotta win. You gotta win every trophy you compete for. Barca and Bayern, the only two teams in history to win a sextuple. And I understand that people think about, like, I watched the Football Pierce video just like you guys did. And he talked about how he doesn't think Hansi Flick is suited for Barca because his style is too high-paced, too intense, and he doesn't feel like Barca have those types of players. And I get that, okay? And 2019-2020 Bayern is one of the greatest teams in the history of football, and Barca don't have that. I think Barca have a lot of talent on our team. I don't buy this bullshit that Barca don't have any talent. I think Barca has a very, very talented squad that with the right manager can get to a whole new level. And I think Hansi Flick can be that guy. I think his brand of football, he can adapt. He can bring in the guys that he wants. He can bring in his medical team and his training staff. And those Bayern teams, when you watched them, it was intense. It was high pressure. It was always on. It was on your tail all the time. And I get that he doesn't have the Barca style of like tiki taka. Like 50 passes and then you find the third man and the runner. He doesn't really have that style. It's more intense, aggressive. Going full throttle every single time. But again, the Barca style hasn't worked in Europe over the past 10 years. So might as well bring a guy with a new style who can maybe make a change for us. That's all I'm asking for, bro. Bring in somebody different. If he doesn't work out, and if Barca hire Hansi Flick and he doesn't work out, I'll be the first one to sit here and say, you know what, it's my bad. I fucked up. I shouldn't have vouched for this guy. But if he does work out, I mean, we could be looking at a guy who can take Barca back to relevancy in Europe, man. And that's all I want. And I think when it comes to Hansi Flick, like I said, does he have the exact personnel that he needs to succeed with the system? I'm going to say no, but I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes, but I'm also not going to say no, is what I'm trying to say. I think Barca have a good enough squad that he can come in and analyze their profiles and kind of build a system around their strengths, which I believe he can because, again, he's a really good manager. I think that Barca can definitely contend for trophies next season. Even with Real Madrid getting Mbappe and obviously and Endrick and all those guys that they're bringing in, and maybe Alphonso Davies and Trent. He won a sextuple. He has that pedigree. He's done it at the highest level. He won every trophy he competed for. That Bayern team ran through Europe. And again, I understand that Barca this year is not Bayern in 2019, 2020. I'm not trying to compare him. But people say that he has no tactics. You don't win a sextuple without tactics. You just don't do it. It's impossible to do that. It is impossible to do that. So for me, again, he would be my number one choice right now. Obviously, like, if I could pick Pep or Jurgen Klopp, I'd bring them in. But they're not available right now. If Xavi's going to end up leaving, my first choice would be Hansi Flick. That's just my opinion, but again, I know people might disagree, but let me know in the comment section. Do you guys like Hansi Flick or not? Next up, we have Thiago Motta, who to me is going to go in intrigue. Now, people might think this is hypocritical, putting Roberto De Zerbi in no and Thiago Motta in intrigue, because everything I said about De Zerbi can apply to Thiago Motta. They have not coached at a big team, and the step up is too big from Brighton to Barca, from Bologna to Barca. It's the same thing. But the thing with Thiago Motta is this. What he did with Bologna this year is really, really impressive, man. It's I'm gonna say it one more time. It's the theme of this video, but it's remarkable, man. I've said it a bunch of times already. It's honestly remarkable. They're fourth. They're in a Champions League spot in the Serie A, and the Serie A has been a really good league this year. And a couple days back, I watched them go up 3-0 against Juventus. Now, granted, they lost. They tied that game, at the end, 3-3, which is, forget about that. But, I mean, going up 3-0 against Juventus, and they play a good brand of football, bro. I like the football that they play. He has these innovative tactics of, like, zonal pressing out of possession, which is really, really smart. I've never seen that before. But he just, like, the players seem to execute it at a high level. Also, in possession, it's all about finding the third man, finding those runners, moving the ball quickly, making those triangles on the pitch. So it's kind of like the same Barca philosophy, because Thiago Motta is a La Masia guy. He spent time at La Masia. He spent time at Barcelona, obviously won a UCL with us in 06 in Paris. So he has those Barca ties that, the Barca board loves so much. But the reason I'm putting him in intrigue is because, like I said, I like the system that he plays, and I think that what he did with Bologna this year is really, really impressive, man. Honestly, it is, and they obviously have that young stud in Josh Zirkzee, who's going to be sought after by every big team in Europe. But other than that, they don't really have world-class talent. The fact that he's gotten them in 4th place is amazing, honestly. So again, like I said, I like his brand of football, in and out of possession. He would be a risk, honestly, and if we're talking about like first choice, he would not be anywhere near my first choice. Again, I'm just intrigued by him. Intrigued does not mean I want him to come to Barca. It just means that if they come in, I'd give him a shot. I'd be like, oh, you know what, that looks interesting. I wouldn't be intrigued by Rafa Marquez at all. And I think with Thiago Motta, like I said, if you give this guy world-class talent like Barca do have, because we do have a world-class squad, I'm not going to let anybody convince us otherwise. I think he could do a decent job, and I think he has a good philosophy, an innovative philosophy, which I like to watch. I like watching Bologna. Over the past couple months, I've watched him a lot when he first got linked to Barca, and I think like the way they play is really, really good. And if you can bring Zirkzee with him, oh my god, it's even better. But yeah, for me, Thiago Motta, I'm intrigued by him 100%. And lastly, we have Thomas Tuchel, which to me is gonna go into yes. Barcelona need to win the UCL. That's what we need. We want the UCL. Barca fans want the UCL. League titles are great. All that stuff is amazing. Barca want the UCL. And Thomas Tuchel is one of the best tournament managers of this generation. He just is, man. This year with Bayern Munich, one of the worst Bayern teams in history, people were saying, over the past 10 years, he got into a UCL semifinal. They were this close to making the UCL final against Madrid in the Bernabeu. A guy who's won a UCL against Pep Guardiola and Man City. He also made another UCL final in 2020 with PSG. So the resume is there. It's just there, bro. And I think, look, he could be really stubborn. He could be a Brown the touchline, kind of like Xavi, but at least he has the pedigree to do that. At least he's won a UCL and won big trophies. So for me, I would not be opposed to Thomas Tuchel. And I think these German guys bring a different mentality to the Barca that we need. The intensity is something that Barca need. Barca a lot of times switch off in games, and these guys will not let you switch off. Especially Hansi Flick, but also Thomas Tuchel. They don't let you switch off. You got to be pedal to the metal, full throttle, every single possession, which I respect a lot. So for me, I think when it comes to bringing Barca to their 6th UCL. The guys who have the best chance to do that are the two at the top. So for that reason, I'm putting them both in yes. But yeah, I would not be upset if Thomas Tuchel comes to Barca. And that, guys, is the end of the video. I appreciate you guys all so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support recently. It honestly means the world to me, man. Whatever you guys agree or disagree with, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with my opinion, and also some people that agree. Please, like always, let me know in the comments section down below, because I love to chat with you guys down there. And yeah, man, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, I love every single one of you, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.